Welcome to my short course on finding digestive balance with Ayurvedic medicine. Digestive disorders are so prevalent in our society right now, and the support within Western medicine is fairly limited, which leaves people extremely frustrated and can lead to many more serious health conditions if not properly dealt with. We are often told that we have IBS or are intolerant to a food, or perhaps we just need to take acid relief tablets for the rest of our life. Whatever it has left me and a lot of my clients feeling completely stumped and powerless as we walk away from the GPs trying to come to terms with a chronic condition we have apparently no control over. Not only can these conditions completely disrupt our enjoyment of food, but they can disrupt our overall health on a deep and meaningful level. In Ayurveda, it is understood that digestion is the root to all health. And this is simply because if we don't correctly digest our food, not only can our body suffer from malnutrition, which leaves us without the essential building blocks we need to stay fit and well, but a substance called ama, or undigested matter, is produced, which creates blockages in tissues, leading to long-term health conditions. My name is Rihanna and I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner, chef and Ayurvedic massage therapist working in Sheffield, UK and via Zoom. I came to Ayurvedic medicine after years of struggling with my own health. I suffered from everything from chronic fatigue to eczema to eating disorders to chronic throat infections with little to no adequate support from the doctors. I searched everywhere and tried everything when I finally came across this holistic ancient Indian medicine form, Ayurveda. From reading one Ayurvedic book, I was completely hooked. Suddenly, I felt seen and heard by a medical system for the first time in my life. The holistic approach meant that for the time I could make important connection between everything I had suffered from mental health to physical health, and this was associated with a particular imbalance. I sought professional help then from an Ayurvedic doctor, and within a few months I was feeling significantly better, and I've kept feeling better for the years to come. From then I studied with an Ayurvedic institute, which is the Ayurvedic Institute UK, under the incredible Dr. Deepika, and found a level of health that I had never felt before in my entire life. I now feel so privileged that since qualifying, I've been able to help others on this journey, and the results still completely overwhelm me. So today I want to present to you the first step in Ayurvedic medicine, balancing the Agni or digestive fire, and some simple methods whereby we can start to support ourselves and find some relief. Ayurveda is a personalised approach, and since I have not assessed your condition, I can only give some simple general Ayurvedic rules that can have a profound effect for everyone, but cannot possibly be specifically personalised for your constitution. If you struggle with this information or find that you feel great after trying these things but want to take a deeper look, then I highly suggest you book a consultation with me or another Ayurvedic professional. So, firstly, let me give you a really brief summary of what Ayurveda is. Ayurveda literally means the science of life. It's a system of health and well-being that came from India and Sri Lanka over 5,000 years ago and is still used and growing to this day. It is based on the understanding that we and everything around us are all made of the same core elements, and these are grounded in 3 categories called the dosha. We all have each dosha governing different parts of our body, and these doshas are a collection of 2 elements each. But we are usually born with 1 or 2 in dominance, and that's where our unique individual birth state or prakruti comes into play. Our prakruti can help us understand our personality, goals, and purpose, along with what experiences, food, and lifestyle might serve us best. It can help predict some of the things we might struggle with in life and can give us tools to help cope with them. Throughout our life, we take in other elements via our lifestyle, our experiences, our food, and this can often cause us to come away from our original state and into one of less balance. The purpose of Ayurvedic medicine is to help us come home to ourselves once more, finding our true and healthiest state, where our immune systems are strong, we are thriving and feeling fulfillment, and we have developed a deep understanding of what we need to stay well in the body and in the mind. We have already spoken a little about this, but as I've said, in Ayurveda it's all about digestion. If our digestive system is healthy and balanced, then most everything else will be. Our digestion can get thrown off by so many different factors. These include, but are not limited to, processed food, alcohol, caffeine, stress, trauma, taking too much of one thing, certain exercise. The list could go on and on. Basically, there are hundreds of things that are unsupportive for the healthy digestion. And in our lifestyles, there are most common ailments, especially in this society. The root cause of most of them is essentially digestion. So we sort the digestion out, and a lot of things follow that. Now we can take a brief look at how our digestion can be affected by our constitution. So the Kapha dosha is made of earth and water and resides in the body within the lymphatic system, within the fat and the muscle tissue, and the reproductive system. If someone is predominant in Kapha dosha, they tend to be gentle, loving, kind, and hold up all the other doshas. Like the water, they are constant, flexible, and softening, and like the earth, they are stable, strong, and resilient. The qualities of Kapha are slow, cold, wet, heavy, and soft. So this is the kind of person that is very sort of naturally mothering and just wants to support others, and that's the kind of almost the point of their existence. They're probably found in creative caring roles in society, caring jobs. They like just a slower pace, and they love to be just around their loved ones in their home as well. This dosha does have a naturally slower digestive system and tends to feel a low level of hunger most of the day. So it's kind of down here, but always constant, always there. When digestion is impaired with this dosha, this person will be drawn to sweet, sour, and salty foods, heavy carbs, and sort of creamy foods. And feelings associated with Kapha digestion, so when a digestive disorder occurs and it's related to that Kapha dosha, maybe it's that you're predominant in Kapha, or maybe that you've been associating with a lot of Kapha activities or foods. So these feelings include lethargy, depression, feelings of heaviness in the body, water retention, coldness, and sort of feelings of stagnation, which can cause constipation as well. If you feel these things, you may have a Kapha imbalance. So moving on to Pitta. So the Pitta dosha is made of fire and water and resides in the body within the blood, the eyes, the head, the stomach, the bone marrow, and the muscle tissue. If someone is predominant in Pitta dosha, they tend to be very fiery, ambitious, organised, intelligent, efficient, prone to anger, and have natural leadership tendencies. The qualities of Pitta are sharp, penetrating, hot, oily, fast, and spreading. So we kind of see this person as, or this dosha as the sort of rocket, going very efficiently and quickly to one clear goal. And it might be that you're Pitta Kapha or you're Pitta Vata. So you might have a little bit of this and relate to this a little bit. And this dosha has a naturally high digestive fire. So meaning foods are metabolized very quickly. So they tend to need to eat quite a lot at regular intervals. This dosha is probably associated most with the feeling of hangry. They can get very kind of angry or irritated if they haven't had food and they really need that food. And if they don't have that food, they can get pain or acid. When impaired, they tend to be drawn to sort of pungent, spicy, sour, salty, oily, and sweet foods. Sweet foods are actually cooling, so they might be drawn to sweet foods because their body's kind of desperate to take the fire down a little bit. Associated feelings are acid reflux, loose stool, burning sensation, pain in the middle of the stomach or hardness, excessive thirst, anger, irritation, and just a kind of burnout feeling. So that's Pitta dosha. And then Vata. So Vata dosha is made up of air and ether. and governs all the movement and circulation within the body. It also sits in the bone tissues, the ears, the large intestine. Someone predominant in Vata dosha tends to be good at communicating, very sociable, active, creative, emotional, curious, and anxious. They're like a kind of bird. So very interested in going from one place to the next, trying lots of different things, don't necessarily like one career path, and do get quite overwhelmed by things easily as well. So the qualities are cold, rough, dry, fast, mobile, and light. And when impaired, Vata dosha is drawn to astringent, bitter, pungent, dry, and light foods, so salady things and things you can pick at through the day. Hunger is variable, so it's kind of more like this. So Kapha is sort of like this, Pitta's like this, Vata's digestion is like this. So hunger can be quite variable, and you can actually forget to eat or kind of eat out of boredom. So hunger might not always be associated with actually eating for Vata. Associated feelings linked with the digestive tract include kind of an agitation, a constipation, dryness, tiredness, or too much energy, sort of an agitation in the body. A thirst, again, from the dryness. Bloating is very much associated with Vata, and because of that air quality, pain in that colon area and gas. So we're talking about the sort of lower belly there. You may well feel a little bit more connection with more than one of these doshas, as several can be out of balance at one time, and we can have birth doshas predominant in 1, 2, or all 3 of these in varying qualities. So don't worry if you find this information a bit confusing right at this moment. So I'm now put that aside in your mind to some extent, and we're now going to go through some general tips on helpful suggestions for general digestive balance. We have learned some of the foundations. I'm going to introduce you to some rules for good digestion within Ayurvedic understanding. As I've said before, it's very important that you understand that your personal imbalance and birth dosha might be very different from the information I'm providing you. So we cannot go much further than this without having a session together. However, following these general rules tends to have a positive effect on most doshas and most situations. If you are diabetic or you have a long-term health condition, I would recommend seeking the advice of a practitioner before you try any of these things. So, firstly, if your digestion is impaired or you're experiencing any of the associated feelings we discussed before, keep your food cooked and your drinks warm. This is the first primary step to healing. Over many generations, humans evolved to eat cooked food. As soon as we discovered fire and we started cooking, from then, our guts actually shrank, and the extra energy we used to use for digestion was redirected into the growth of our brain. For this reason, unlike other animals, we are no longer designed to eat raw food too often, as our guts cannot manage it anymore. Our guts are too small, and we need that energy for our brain. What can happen if we eat too much raw food, in fact, is that all our energy has to go into cooking it inside of us, and therefore we can be left with feeling sort of symptoms of chronic fatigue and eventually chronic fatigue itself, as we don't have enough energy for our normal brain function. And this can affect loads of things, from hormones to other processes in your body. If our digestion is already struggling, this rule becomes extra important. By cooking the food outside of our body first, we make it much easier to digest inside. If we stick to warm water where possible too, this will help keep the digestive fire alive and ready for your next meal. Cold water can literally extinguish the fire, essentially. Next rule I would say is, it's another general rule because we all digest fruit in the same place, and this is a different place to where we digest the rest of our food. Fruit starts its digestive process in the esophagus. However, if we eat it with something else, it can be dragged down to the main stomach where it is not properly digested. Once it is here, it instead sits there and sort of ferments, eventually turning into that undigested matter, that substance called ama, which can cause blockage and imbalance. So keeping your fruits separate, and again, cooking where possible. So things like stewed berries or apples, we can pop a little bit of cinnamon on or other spices to further help the digestion. But keeping that separate from meals, maybe half an hour to 40 minutes away from a different meal. That would be good. And you might experience sort of positive effects from that quite quickly if you're used to mixing your fruit with your meal. So it can be really helpful to look at the Ayurvedic patterns of the day in order to understand when our body has nature on its side, supporting it with different activities. Doshas, which exist inside of us, but also around us, take dominance in our atmosphere at different times of day. So Kapha takes dominance at 6 till 10, morning and evening. This is a time when our digestion will feel a little more sluggish because of those Kapha qualities of slowness and like dullness. If you have Kapha type digestion, it might be especially good to have a big lunch instead of a breakfast and stick to a lighter, earlier dinner. So not even necessary to have breakfast if you do feel really lethargic or you don't feel hungry in the morning. Definitely listen to your hunger cues. Pitta kicks in between 10 and 2. And in the daytime, this makes perfect time to work and eat our biggest meal with that fiery pitta energy supporting our digestion and our brain function. If it's hot and sunny, you have a pitta imbalance already, it might be good to stick to cooling, gentle foods at this time and just avoid sort of pungency and spicy meals. And from 2 to 6, Vata comes along, and Vata characteristics encourage creativity, communication, movement. But if we eat too much around this time, it could result in bloating and restlessness. So we kind of want to keep our meals quite stable and regular. So we don't necessarily want to be snacking all day. This does inhibit our digestion. If we have pitta digestion and we need to, we do have to until that goes down, until we cool that fire down. But yeah, it's good to have sort of regular meal times otherwise and try and stick to those meals instead of snacking outside of it, as we actually also need time for the food to go to the place it needs to go and start to repair the body. So that's really important to note. It's important for Vata to have breakfast. So Vata doshas and people who have a Vata imbalance, we do need to eat quite a little bit more food, sort of stodgier, kind of heavier meals such as a rice porridge, something like that is really, really supportive and beneficial, especially in the morning, because it kind of helps ground Vata and it helps mitigate against that kind of agitation and that kind of randomness that can kick in later in the day. Okay, so sattvic is a term we use in Ayurveda to describe peace and tranquility. The other two qualities in nature are rajas, which encourages desire, and tamas, which encourages stagnation and slowness. Foods have these qualities too. The more rajasic foods we eat, the more we want and the more desire and cravings start to rule our day and our life. If we eat mainly tamastic foods, this can leave us feeling stuck, unmotivated, very low, very lethargic. But sattvic foods do not aggravate any of the dosha, and so should leave us feeling calm and free and without craving. If we have poor digestion, focusing on this kind of food, sattvic food, can support our digestion rather than causing further imbalance and help to replenish and nourish the bodily tissues. Rajasic food includes raw food, onion, garlic, chili, tomatoes, carrots, peanuts, citrus fruits, red meat, red fish, fermented foods. Tamastic food includes heavy dairy products, animal fats in general, processed foods, refined carbs and sugars. So refined is the key word there. Carbs and sugars are absolutely great, but yeah, it's just the heavily refined versions. Sattvic foods include rice, pulses, whole grains, and other fresh fruit and vegetables. Another thing to consider is the general prevalence of the Pitta dosha in our society. So I'm talking about the UK here, probably is the case in the US and a lot of countries in Europe. So Pitta dosha is very prevalent here. This is because of our work culture. It's because of our colder climate, which means that throughout time we have indulged in or needed to indulge in more kind of heating foods. So a lot of the food and drink we consume and the activities we indulge in are dominant in Pitta dosha. There are some climate reasons for this, as I mentioned. These fiery qualities have developed and dominated over time, and now they look like overworking, overexerting ourselves, engaging in competitive and status-driven behaviours, overconsumption of alcohol, coffee, red meat, fermented products. Pitta imbalances, which affect the digestion and cause inflammation within the body, are now particularly common, usually reducing Pitta and balancing Vata, which can be aggravated by Pitta, and is usually out of balance when we are suffering from any condition, because it's the movement, it's the circulation, can usually greatly help our digestive systems. So here you can actually see, you can take a picture of this, or obviously this is in your link that I've sent you, so you can rewatch this video. You can have a little look. There's some gentle digestive help. So spices and food additives to improve digestion. We've got some gentle little recipes that are essentially remedies you can make at home that help improve digestion as well. You can take a picture of that, save that. So now we can look at the 6 tastes. These can help us understand which foods to reduce in order to help with a particular imbalance, but there are also lifestyle factors which we'll talk about next. Here you can see a list of the different flavours and their associated doshas. For example, sour, salty and pungent foods such as lemon, crisps and chili, to name a few, will all be aggravating for Pitta imbalances because they contain fire, essentially. So reducing these might help reduce a lot of digestive as well as inflammatory and blood-related conditions. Whereas sticking to a greater quantity of naturally sweet, bitter or astringent foods such as squash, chard, pomegranate will ease the digestion, this type of digestion, along with other symptoms. But yeah, you can see all of the tastes and their associated dosha there as well. So for example, if you have a Vata digestive system and you've got a lot of bloating, decreasing sort of bitter and astringent and a little bit of pungency, and this means maybe, as I said, the raw foods, the kind of raw green vegetables, very astringent, things like that. So reducing that can really help. And with kapha, you kind of want to reduce the salty, the sweet and the sour. So sticking more to those astringent, bitter, pungent flavours, so the spicy curries, lots of green vegetables, that kind of thing. Okay. So if this is confusing, obviously, again, speak to a practitioner. They will help you understand which foods are appropriate for your condition. But most people find that reducing foods in this list will help improve digestion. And again, that's because our society is dominant in Pitta dosha and we tend to have Pitta as an imbalance a lot of the time. So this might not work for you, but these foods are particularly aggravating for most people in our society. So take note of these. And it might be that you don't eat them already. It might be that you're going to find it really hard reducing, so you need to find a swap. For example, if you have a lot of tomato meals, you can exchange that for roasted red pepper, and you can blend that up and make a sauce, or you can even make a kind of creamy coconut sauce for things instead of a tomato sauce, or roast some squash or cauliflower, blend that with some tofu, some coconut milk. There's lots of different options, but try and do a swap instead of just cutting something out, because when you cut something out, then your body's going to feel like it is really missing something, and those cravings are still going to be there and it's going to be hard. I would say a lot of these foods particularly do have an addictive quality as well. So after a certain length of time of cutting these out, you will find it a lot easier to not have them anymore. That and the Pitta will have gone down So that desire and that craving for these foods will come down as well naturally. So it will become much easier over time, is what I'm saying. So the last and possibly one of the most important factors to consider, but also one we may sometimes have the least control over, is environmental factors. We may all be affected by pollution, genetics, what was happening in the mother's womb, what food we actually have access to, how we were raised. But let's focus on the environmental factors that we do or might have some control over. And if I say anything that you don't have control over, like, don't worry about that one. One simple one is where and how we eat our meals. Do you eat yours at a desk in the middle of the working day? Do you take yourself to a relaxed environment and take time over each bite? These might seem irrelevant, but the way we think, feel, and approach our meal times can greatly affect how our body digests the food. If we are thinking of something else, or we're trying to, we're sort of on the go, our energy is also somewhere else and not where it needs to be in our digestive system. For this reason, creating the most relaxed environment possible, free from distractions, could be really great for your health. I don't necessarily mean don't watch your favourite Netflix show while you have your dinner, because this might put you in a really relaxed state of mind, in which case it's probably an okay idea. Maybe stay away from intense crime drama. What I mean is that anything that might cause stress, anxiety, or overthinking while eating should be avoided if possible. This might even mean having your phone in a different room instead of in your pocket, because even that little buzz could throw your energy away from your digestive system. We also need enough time to digest, so rushing off straight after a meal could also stunt the digestive process, leading to difficulties. And in terms of emotional distress, you probably already have an awareness of how you feel towards food at that time. Perhaps you go to food for comfort, or you sort of don't feel like eating at all when you're upset. Either way, you'll be aware that our emotions have an effect on appetite, and appetite and cravings are a good indication of how our digestive system is coping with something. If we are having an abnormally strong appetite, it's likely we have some pitta imbalance. Maybe we're very stressed at that time, or we're intaking a lot of pitta things. Whereas if it is very low, constant, or weak, and irregular, it's more likely to be associated with kapha or vata. When we are aware of this, we can look around us and assess our emotional environmental situation, picking up possible causes. If we're very upset, stressed, or anxious, it might be best to wait until these emotions pass a little to eat. This could be helped by doing a relaxing or fun activity, journaling, having some mindful breaths, or a meditative yoga practice. For a more chronic emotional condition, it's advisable to speak to a professional such as a counsellor or therapist, or your GP who might send you to one. This might be the route to a digestive issue, actually, rather than anything you're actively eating. So it's worth bearing in mind your emotional health and how that can affect your digestion. So if you feel like you have a more complex condition, would like further support, or are confused about something that I've said in here, please do feel free to get in touch or book a session with me. I operate face-to-face and via Zoom for those further afield. You can also find lots of resources on my website and Instagram page. In fact, just type in Ayurveda and many different practitioners will appear, perhaps somewhere near where you live. The institute I trained at is the Ayurvedic Institute at UK, and they too have lots of resources on their website. I really hope this has been helpful and that you find the support you need. Know that whatever you're going through, you are not alone. A lot of people suffer with digestive imbalance. It's very, very common. It really is a minefield out there in terms of information available, but you don't have to suffer and struggle by yourself. The kindest thing you can do is sometimes just asking for support. If you have got to this point in the presentation, please do email me to request some additional support. And you will also see under this video link in the initial page that you're on, you will see a link to a sattvic recipe book, which is my book that I've developed over time for my clients. You are very welcome to it. It's just £5, and there's lots of recipes that tend not to cause aggravation. So if you're struggling for ideas, that's a good place to start. And thank you so much for listening.